You are listening to the Julie Parker Practice Success Podcast, where you discover management insights and strategies for your successful dental practice. There are also interviews with key people in the industry who have advice and services to help you and your team achieve great success. Welcome to this week's episode of the Julie Parker Practice Success Podcast. In this episode, I thought I would let you know and tell you the story of how I became a dental practice owner. As many of you know, my story is a little bit different from many dental practice owners in that I was never a dentist. I was a dental assistant and a dental receptionist that moved into practice ownership once I'd been working in the industry for a period of time. So I thought I'd let you know about the story just in case there were any dental auxiliary staff members out there that were having aspirations about practice ownership themselves. I'm hoping that the story can be a little bit inspiring because my journey towards and in dental practice ownership, I have to say, was so tremendously enjoyable, and I learned so much and grew so rapidly as well. And certainly there were growing pains along the way, like there always is with these sort of things, but it was a swift journey once I'd made the decision to do it, and I really did. I embraced every aspect of it, so good, bad, ugly, loved it all, and have certainly benefited in my life enormously from that decision to actually purchase my own dental practice. And so the story starts back when I was a young gal. I was 17 years old. I wasn't all that academically minded. And when I was 17, it was 1987. So it was a little bit of time ago. And back in the day, there weren't any online courses or colleges. You had to go through and complete back then HSC to be able to get into university. And so if you were like me and you weren't all that academically minded, you could go into a trade, or you could become a hairdresser or a dental nurse. And I was encouraged to leave school because I wasn't turning up, because I didn't see the enormous value of school. And so therefore I had to get a job pretty quickly. I was in a family where you didn't just do nothing, where you were either schooling or you were working. And so it was urgent that I got a job pretty much straight away. I had known of somebody that had become a dental assistant and didn't require any specific skills or training to be able to get into the industry at a trainee level. So I became a dental assistant, and then over the years, just found I absolutely loved it. I studied for my Certificate 3, of course. At that stage, I was really interested, so I became a very good student and enjoyed all the practices that I was working in, even the ones that had challenging times. Doesn't all of those challenging times, they all just make up part of our history, and our history makes up our story and prompts us into future decisions and places that we go to and we're interested in. So all of our experiences, once we become an older adult, we recognise that all of those experiences are filled with value for our lives. When I was 33, so 2003, I had been working at a practice, and one of the older clients that was coming in for dental treatment, he'd start coming in just for general chit chats. I think a lot of receptionists out there know the kind of patient I'm talking about. They'll come in just for a chat for 20 minutes, and they'll pop in and then pop out again, and they don't specifically have anything around their dental care that needs to be managed on that day. And this patient, Bob, used to come in for regular chats, and he was a lovely man, and he was retired from his work. I think from memory, I think he was working in printing in some way. But one of our discussions centered around that in his retirement years, he did a lot of work with alcoholics or recovering alcoholics. And he had a cassette tape series, this is how old everything is, a cassette tape series that he would encourage these recovering alcoholics to listen to that would help them recognize that how much power they actually had in their own life and how they could really choose and select what was going on in their world and what life they had. And he offered these tapes, there were 6 tapes in all, cassette tapes in all, and he offered these to me to have a listen to. It was such a turning point in my life. Back then, I didn't realise it, but the presenter, a guy named Mike McCaffrey, someone who I have searched for online since, and I can't find any evidence of this man at all in the past. So maybe he was an angel that was sent down from the heavens, or maybe he was so old the internet didn't catch up with him, or maybe I've remembered his name incorrectly. But this tape series by Mike McCaffrey, I didn't realize it at the time, but it was my first exposure to NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming. And for those of you who are unaware of neuro-linguistic programming, it is a process of understanding that the language we use in our minds can have a direct, or it does have a direct impact on the lives that we end up having. That yes, things can happen around us and to us, and it is recognizing it's the meaning that we attach to those things, or it's the meaning we derive from those things, and the way we speak to ourselves around our experiences and the events around our lives, that is then powerful in our life and helpful in our life, or it's unhelpful in our life. And if it's unhelpful in our life, it's only us, and wonderfully us, that has control over changing that dialogue. I've since become a neuro-linguistic programming trainer, or accredited trainer. And if you haven't come across NLP in the past, please do look into it. It's a very powerful space to be in. And people like Tony Robbins, the American kind of motivational guru, he is heavily involved in NLP as well, and that's part of his training method. But Mike McCaffrey, in this series of 6 tapes, I found myself listening to them and becoming so empowered by the prospect that what I could achieve in my life was solely residing on my shoulders, that I had an enormous power over my life, and just because I left school early, or was encouraged to leave school early, it didn't have an impact over my long-term aspirations unless I said that it had an impact over my long-term aspirations. So all of this information was running through my brain. And the thought that I really ran with was that if other people could become business owners, then I could become a business owner. There was nothing stopping me from becoming a business owner. All I had to do was recognize the opportunities that were around me and develop within myself the skills required to achieve that dream. I didn't really fully think about owning my own practice straight away. But what I did find is that when I was listening to this tape series, it was shifting the way my perspective around life. It was shifting the way I thought about my existence and my purpose, and why I was here, and what made me feel happy and passionate and energetic about my work and my life. And when I was having a casual discussion with the team that I was working with, and we were talking about a particular challenge, and I can't quite remember what it was, but we as a team just came up with solutions around it, but then admitted that these solutions possibly wouldn't be accepted by the current owners, and so this problem will remain unaddressed. And so I thought to myself, to hell with it. I can't just buy my own practice. And this is how easy it is to come up with solutions. We just chat about it as a team, come up with a solution, then roll that solution out. I tell you what, it's such a wonderful gift that we don't know the whole journey or what's required of us, and how challenging it can be when we're making this decision to own a practice to start off with. Because if we knew all the challenges, in all likelihood, we would run screaming and say, no, we don't want that, that's okay. But when it's a progressive journey, you get used to the journey, you grow throughout the journey, you're progressing all the time, and so the things that you're capable of get bigger and bigger and bigger. So I decided I'm going to buy my own dental practice. And my initial thought was, well, I have to do it with a dentist. I can't do it by myself. It didn't even come into my brain to do it by myself. And so I started some discussions with a dentist who is a tremendous human being. And then it turned out that both of us possibly wanted things slightly different. That's when I thought, I wonder if I could own my own practice. And so within the NLP, the neuro-linguistic programming tape series that I was listening to, one of the strong elements was visualization. To really become very clear of what I was thinking, feeling, doing once I had already achieved this goal. Only then would my internal belief system allow it to actually happen. And so I did this. Every night I was going to bed and I was imagining standing in my own practice. First day of ownership, I've done it. I own my own practice now. And I extended that visualization out to, I recognized because of the NLP that, of course, you can have all the goals you want under the sun, but without action, without actually taking action, those goals just remain dreams. So one of the things I was doing, and for people who do live Bayside around the Melbourne area, I'll mention the suburbs and the landmarks because you may get a kick of understanding exactly where I was when I was moving through this taking action every day process. I was living in Chelsea. I was working in Moorabbin. And so I was driving up Nepean Highway all the way from Chelsea to Moorabbin. And one of the suburbs that you drive through when I go to work every day is Mordialloc. And in Mordialloc there is a roundabout. And this roundabout, you can keep going straight on up Nepean Highway. And Nepean Highway is busy. That's peak hour traffic. That's speed limits of up to 80 so everyone can, it's a highway. There's a lot of traffic on that road, 4 lanes, all the rest of it. The other option that at that roundabout that you've got is to go left. And when you go left, you are driving down Beach Road. So beautiful, pretty scenery. On one side of the road, you've got the beach. You've got the bay. It's glorious. And on the other side, you've got all the lovely mansions and beautiful homes that face that bay as well. However, there's usually traffic cameras all the way up. It's only 60 k's an hour on the way up. It is a far prettier drive, more pleasant drive. However, it does take you longer to get to work. I found myself using that roundabout as a point of reference for me. Every morning when I got to that roundabout, the meaning I attached to that roundabout was I either go straight up, get to work a bit quicker up Nepean Highway with the rat race, with all the employees. This is the meaning I attached to it, with all the employees. Or I would decide at that roundabout to turn left instead and go down Beach Road instead, looking at the bay and the mansions that one day I would own because I was now a business owner and I was in direct control over my income. So that roundabout became my focal point. Every single morning I made a decision. I'm either going to be an employee today or I'm going to be a business owner today. And when I took left down Beach Road and had the mentality of a business owner, I was thinking of things such as, what kind of team do I want around me? How many dentists am I planning on employing? What kind of dental patients are coming through? What suburb do I want my dental practice to be in? Do I want to start from scratch? Do I want to buy an existing dental practice? Where am I going to get the funding? What kind of marketing and promotions would I do? How would I make sure that if I was buying an ongoing concern, that patients would remain loyal to the dental practice? I was thinking about all the things that I would normally be thinking about when I owned the dental practice, but I was putting myself in the current tense with it, not eventually what will be my marketing campaign. What do I need to do right now for a marketing campaign? Not eventually what team do I want to hire, but right now what team am I hiring? What characteristics have they got? What experiences do they have? So I put myself so effectively in that mindset. I tell you what, I could not go straight ahead at that roundabout anymore and go down Nepean Highway. I was so effective with my visualization. I got to that roundabout and I said to myself, am I crazy? Of course I'm going left up Beach Road, becoming a business owner. That is me now. That's my identity now. I'm a business owner. And it was quite an interesting thing, I have to say. They talk about the planets aligning, and when you put positive intention out there to the world, the universe works in your favor. And I felt that to be absolutely true just because of the evidence that was appearing in front of me, that I would go to work and the practice would get some sort of mail out delivered to them of practices in the local area that were for sale. And I'd be like, oh my God, like I never saw this before. What, am I creating this? I had people contacting me saying, oh, I haven't worked with you for ages and I used to really enjoy it. And what practice are you working at now? It'd be great to come back and work with you somewhere. And I'm thinking, oh, that's my next new staff member. And I started actually taking advantage of all these opportunities. I would say to these people, yes, that is my journey. That's what I'm doing. I'm in the process of owning my own practice. Let me get back to you. Let me get some things organised and I'll get back to you. And so there were so many things that were happening just like that I did feel like I was creating it, manifesting it in my life. And I found this whole NLP process working very, very well for me and blowing my own mind about what I thought I was able to achieve. Because, of course, being an early school leaver, you do think, well, that's it. This is the industry that I'm in. I'm a dental nurse. I'm a receptionist. And I love and get so much joy out of those things wonderfully. But I didn't honestly think that practice ownership was part of my aspirations at any point in time. It all happened very quickly. So from the point in time that I decided, that's it, this tape series have helped me identify that I'd really like to own my own practice. Then creating that visualization, having that constant prompt for action every single morning I'm at that roundabout on my way to work. All of these things made the journey seem very, very quick. And it was. I feel like it was very, very quick. I was going to banks and figuring out how to afford it and how to leverage off the house and make sure that financially it was a viable option. Make sure that I was then reading all of these management books. And back then, of course, the management books that were available and the leadership books that were available were very few in number, but very powerful in content and big names that were writing these books. Nowadays, it's far more difficult to find books that truly resonate with you because there's thousands of them everywhere. But back then, of course, you were buying the physical book. There was nothing to download online or anything like that. And then time went on. And I located a practice, and the person that was selling this practice had it for decades, had actually started off in the city, relocated out to a suburb here in Melbourne called Brighton, an affluent area. And I couldn't have been more lucky with the location or the person I was buying it from. And the person I was buying it from, because the banks didn't see me as a good risk because I wasn't a dentist, so I wasn't a good risk. And so they weren't going to lend me the whole amount of money straight away. They were going to lend it to me over, if memory serves well, it was over a period of 3 years. So I then had to go back to the owner of the practice and say, I can buy it, but it has to be over terms over 3 years. And I think he was so far deeply into it by then. He's like, oh, bugger it, just do it. I'll sign whatever you want. We'll do it over 3 years instead. So he was ridiculously generous. Wonderfully, the practice remained as viable and grew. And so the banks were willing to lend me money, the whole amount, after 1 year. So I could pay him back after 1 year, which is a wonderful load off my mind. And I'm sure it was a load off his mind as well. I still remember so clearly the day I signed all the paperwork, and the lawyer was there and the other dentist was there and I was there. We signed off on everything. It was after the patients had left from the practice that day, so it may have been about 6 o'clock at night, that we'd signed all the papers, and then it was mine. The lawyer left and the dentist left, and I was standing there by myself in the waiting room, pinching myself, saying, now, you've done it. You're owning the practice now. This is your practice now. And I couldn't quite believe it. And I get those moments every now and again where you're in reality, but it feels like it's not quite reality. And it was certainly one of those situations where I had to keep saying to myself, this is real, this is happening. I was so excited, but had a lot of trepidation too, because I knew all of a sudden the weight of everything started to settle on my shoulders. But it excited me. It didn't overwhelm me. It excited me because I really was willing to embrace every aspect. I knew how much I had to learn, and so I was out there to learn it all, to find out all the information that I needed to find out, and to go through the experience of it all, and to grow and progress. And that day that I was standing in that practice, having all those strange feelings that comes with achieving a goal that you didn't actually think you could actually dream for, it was nearly 6 months to the day that I decided, that's it, I'm going to buy my own dental practice. So I feel like 6 months is a short period of time to go from not having it on your horizon at all to standing in it, owning it, let's go forward from here. When I first started, thanks to this wonderful dentist, he connected me with another dentist who ended up becoming the dentist that worked with me for the whole length of time, the whole 10 years that I owned that practice and beyond. She's been working there for a long time. And she and I got along really well. We had a very similar set of values and philosophy and approach to dentistry and the management of patients and management of team. So it worked very, very well. And reflecting back on my practice ownership time, over 10 years, you can imagine there were ups and downs. To be honest with you, I can only remember happy times because even the challenging times, I, upon reflection, find kind of amusing. I mean, I still remember there were many times where things just weren't going according to plan, and I wanted to put on a strong leadership face in front of the team. So I walk out the back where there's a car park, and I'd have a moment to myself, and I just look to the heavens, and I would say in a much more colourful way, "Park me, like, what's going on here? How am I going to get over this particular challenge?" But the experience was absolutely glorious, and it certainly helped me discover a whole different space that I could take within the dental industry itself. And in actual fact, in many ways, it was more ideal having me as the dental practice owner than me being a dentist and the dental practice owner, because when you're a dentist, of course, you're in the surgery 8 hours every day, 4 days, 5 days a week. You're coming in on the weekend to do all the admin. You're worrying about all the time you don't have to have important discussions with team members and important contemplations around the goals and the goal setting, goal achievement of the practice as well. So the amount of time that I had to pay attention to all the crucial elements of business ownership and management, it just played directly in my favour. And of course, being the practice owner, who else is going to care as much in regards to managing patient complaints effectively, having effective promotions, developing those strong rapport-building relationships with patients than the person that's welcoming them into the practice every day, the one that's answering the phone every day. I was lucky enough to have read very, very good books at the very start because I knew how much I had to learn. And that's one of the things that I do encourage new dental practice owners to grasp and to embrace is understand that there is so much you don't know. You don't even know you don't know it. So be so open-minded, be so flexible in your thought processes, be so eager and hungry for the knowledge of how to manage a team effectively, how to be a great leader, how to be magnificent in your relationships with your clients, with your customers, with your patients, and develop all the systems around their management. Be so hungry for that information because the opportunity is there to learn real quick. After reading a couple of books around stories of dentists after they've retired and they get asked this same question, if you could go back in time and share some wisdom with yourself, your younger self who've just owned a practice, what would that wisdom be? They all have the same answer. I would have learned how to deal with people far sooner. Cash flow projections, profit and loss financial statements, how to do that filling, how to do that crown. That's easy compared to the interpersonal relationships that you develop with your patients and your team members and your other partners if you are in a partnership arrangement within your dental practice. So my 10 years of dental practice ownership was filled with good times, hard times, challenging times, but it was embracing all of it. And there's a lovely quote by Seneca, one of the Stoics, and I listened to it just last week and it's so relevant and it really hit home to me. So I wrote it down in my awesome diary so I would never forget it. And it is this: it's all in your head. You have the power to make things seem hard or easy or even amusing. The choice is yours. And I feel like that is what I did during my 10 years of dental practice ownership. Yes, things were hard and other things were easy. But the stuff that was really challenging, I reflect upon those things as amusing now, as part of this lovely, funny, difficult journey, much like I hear, I'm not a parent myself, but much like I hear parents of young little children talk about. They don't talk about how angry they are at their child for not behaving properly or sleeping all through the night or having food allergies and how difficult it is to cater for all of the different tastes at dinner time. They're not angry about that. They find it amusing, and amongst parents, they have laughs about that. And I think the same opportunity lies with anything challenging in life. It's when you embrace the fact that it's never meant to be easy, that of course there's challenges, and it's indeed getting over those challenges and becoming a better person because of it. That's where we feel like we are living life to the fullest. That's when we are truly reflecting back over our life, saying we've achieved stuff because that stuff was hard to get through. And so it is achievement to get through it, overcome it, attaching a meaningful meaning to it. So I've got nothing but encouragement of people out there that would like to own a dental practice, whether you are a dentist, a dental hygienist, a dental nurse, receptionist, practice manager. It, for me, was a magnificent journey, and I loved every second of it, and I would do it over and over again, all the hard bits included, 100 times over, so I could provide myself with evidence that if I truly wanted to do something, there's actually nothing stopping me. Like everybody else who does that thing, whether it's owning a dental practice, running a marathon, doing a PhD, I've got 2 arms, 2 legs, a thinking mind. I can see, hear, speak. I've got the blessing of all of these physical capabilities, none of which stop me from achieving the things that other able-bodied people can achieve as well. So I want to finish off with a little story that will hopefully encourage anyone to start aspiring to dreams that are bigger than what you currently think you are capable of achieving. And this story comes from me not quite understanding a quote that I'd heard on several occasions, and I decided to do a bit of research behind it. The quote is, "I overestimated what I could get done in 1 year and underestimated what I could get done in a decade." Now, I thought to myself, that doesn't make sense to me. I am constantly hearing about people, and doing it myself as well, goals for 10 years down the track. Oh, I'm going to be a squillionaire in 10 years. All sorts of things are going to be possible in 10 years' time. I'm going to have a really big mansion. I'm going to be going on holidays overseas all the time, and everybody in the world's going to love me. And so I didn't quite understand this whole underestimation of what we could achieve in a decade. I'm like, no, the opposite is true. Most people are setting enormous goals for 10 years down the track. And then I came across, during my research, of an article that was written by somebody. I should have made a note of what their name was. But they were talking about a game, an online game called Osmos. And in this game, Osmos, you are a particle moving around a medium. And as a particle, you're of a certain size, and you are coming up against other particles. Some of these particles are smaller than you, and other particles are larger than you. And the whole purpose of the game is to gobble up the particles that are smaller than you, which you can do because you're larger than them, and avoid the particles that are larger than you because they will gobble you up because they're larger than you. And so you move through this game, and as you gobble up all these smaller particles, you get that little bit bigger and that little bit bigger. So at the start of the game, you are of a certain size, and you can see, and you are aiming towards all these smaller particles that you can overcome. And you are avoiding these bigger particles. But as you are overcoming these smaller particles around you and getting bigger and bigger and bigger, at some point, the larger particle that you've been avoiding, now you can overcome it, and you grow even more. And this is why we can't make decisions about what goals we are trying to achieve, what dreams we would like to accomplish in our current mindset, with our current capabilities, with our current skill set. Because on the journey of achieving a large dream, we are always overcoming the obstacles that are in our way. And it is through overcoming those obstacles that we get bigger, better, we grow, we become more and more capable. And so it makes perfect sense why we underestimate what we can achieve in 10 years. Because who knows, if we went on this journey of seeking out obstacles that we can overcome and being on this strong growth journey, man, it'll blow your mind what you could possibly achieve in 10 years' time. Imagine you 10 years from now being so much more skilled, having so many more resources, having developed so many more tools in your life. Can you imagine what you could achieve? You can't. And that's how glorious life can be. So I encourage you, have your goal just to be better and better every day. Have your goal to grow. and don't resist the growth journey. Embrace all the obstacles, embrace what you're not great at, and discover how to become great at it. I hope you blow your own mind. Speak to you next time. Hey, if you enjoyed listening to this episode, you should join the club. The club members receive an online lunch and learn twice a month where I share insights, systems and strategies to improve the success of your practice. These lunch and learns could not be easier to train your dental team. They are recordings so you can watch them at a time that suits you. For example, during team lunchtimes, pay your team members for their lunch hour. The first half hour, they're eating and watching the presentation. The second half hour, they're discussing how to implement this particular insight into your dental practice operations. And remember my favourite quote, it's by Archilochus, and he states, "We do not rise to the level of our expectations, but fall to the level of our training." So join the club now and start upskilling your team members and improving the operations of your dental practice. I hope to see you there.